you own it. Let every mile bring a smile, yeah.
You've built the business, you're crushing it in your career, you've scaled your impact, but are you winning at home?
Welcome to the 200% Marriage Podcast. We're Meredith and Craig, and we're here to help you kill that domestic drag and turn your partner into your most elite teammate.
From Russian taxi mishaps to hailstorms on the summit, we're sharing the raw and real stories and tactical drills you need to move out of roommateville and into your 200% life.
So grab your gear. It's time to build an unstoppable team. Let's dive in.
Chapter 12, okay? Let's get after it.
Chapter 12. Stop shooting on yourself. No is a complete sentence. Anne Lamott. When your cup is empty, that means there's nothing left in it for you to give anyone else. See, most people think taking care of themselves first is selfish. It's not. If you want to be able to care for literally anyone else, you have to take care of yourself first. The only way to show up for the people you love, your teammate, your kids, your parents, your colleagues, your friends, is by taking care of yourself first. If your cup is empty, if you're depleted, if your battery's in the red, if you don't have anything left, if your battery's in the red, you don't have anything to give them. Plus, if you have kids, what are you teaching them about taking care of themselves as they get older? They won't do what you tell them. I'm guessing you've learned that lesson once or twice. They will do what they see you do. So you can say to your kids that it's important that they take care of themselves all you want. But if they don't see you taking care of yourself, they're very unlikely to take care of themselves as they grow up. It's also why every airline in the world tells you to put your own oxygen mask on before you help anyone else with theirs. If you don't have any air, you can't help anyone else. If your battery is dead, if your tank is empty, if you're running on fumes, you are no good to anyone else. Taking care of yourself is actually the most selfless thing you can do for the people you love. When your cup is full, you have something to give them. You can fill their cup from yours. I used to think self-care was bubble baths, and manicures, and sleeping in. That's what it looked like back when we were in corporate jobs. We were living for the weekends and vacations, sleeping in, drowning the stress and dissatisfaction of our lives in wine and cookies, and collapsing on the couch all weekend watching sports or TV shows and calling it rest. What I've come to realize is that self-care actually means doing whatever it takes to genuinely take care of yourself. Sounds intuitive, right? It means doing the things you know will give you more energy, more vitality, even if you don't feel like doing them in that particular moment. Instead of sleeping in and living for the weekend, now we wake up at the same time every single day. Sleeping in isn't a thing anymore. We prioritize quality sleep every night, so we don't feel the need to sleep in anymore. A big part of that shift was cutting out alcohol. I sleep significantly better without alcohol in my life. Now, before I have a mutiny on my hands, I'm not saying you or anyone else has to ditch alcohol. I'm just saying that I feel so much better without it. It was the right decision for me. Actually, it was the right decision for both of us. Honestly, it feels a bit weird first in social situations. We still have the odd friend make a comment about us not drinking, but we don't care anymore. Because we sleep great. We feel great. And I haven't had a hangover in years. It is glorious. We also make it a priority to move our bodies every single day. Usually this means a walk, which is when we do our best thinking and connecting. It also serves as a natural way to shift from our business partner hats to our life partner hats. Side note, especially for entrepreneurs or couples who work from home, the workday can easily bleed into everything. So creating a transition point between business time and couple time is crucial. Another thing we stopped doing in the name of self-care, because it makes us feel better, was cutting out bread, except for mom's freshly baked sourdough. We cut out dairy, we cut out sugar, for the most part. Let's be real. We still have ice cream as a treat on a hot day. And is life even worth living without pizza every now and then? We're not soulless robots. But day in and day out, we skip those things. And it makes an enormous difference for us. We hadn't realized how bloated, sluggish, and stuffed up our diet was making us. Is it easy? No. Do we always feel like doing it? Again, no. But routine has made it sustainable, and the payoff is more than worth it. And what I'm not saying here is that you have to cut out alcohol, bread, sugar, and dairy to practice self-care. What I am saying is pay attention to the things that you do that make you feel good, and to the things that you do or eat that make you feel not so good. When you know what makes you feel good, do more of that. When you know what makes you feel not good, do less of that. It's not going to be the same for you as it is for me. But whatever it is for you, I'm guessing you won't always feel like it either. It helps to build a routine around it. All that to say, what we realized is this. Self-care is really just discipline dressed up in prettier words. It's going for a walk when you don't feel like it because you know you'll feel better after. It's saying no to the cheese tray because you know you'll feel clearer in the morning. It's waking up when you say you will, even, especially, when you're tired, and giving yourself the time to journal, meditate, or drink your coffee while it's still hot. It's taking something off your list rather than adding more items to it. We've got a client who really struggled with her self-care. For her, self-care felt overwhelming and sent her into a shame spiral. Whatever she did to take care of herself, she didn't feel like it was working for her. She always felt like she was doing it wrong because she didn't enjoy it, or it felt like so much effort that she just didn't do it at all. She felt like she should take a break alone to recharge, a break from the kids, a break from the housework. She felt like she should go somewhere and should do something alone to make herself feel good. There were a few problems with how she was approaching her self-care. One, she was shoulding all over herself. Should is a word that induces shame. So she was exacerbating the feeling of shame that came with not taking care of herself through the language she used with us, and much more importantly, with herself. She didn't feel like leaving the house to do self-care activities was worth the time. She felt like she had to do a bunch of extra work to get the kids in the house ready for her to be gone for a couple of hours. And then she'd come home to a house where kids had been playing for a couple of hours, so it looked like a hurricane had blown through, and she'd have to redo all the work she did before she left. Taking care of herself just felt like too much extra work. And the third issue, she didn't recharge by being alone. As a mom of busy toddlers, she was asking for help and advice. Most of the advice she was getting was taking time for herself, which seemed very reasonable. The problem was that she didn't recharge by being alone. She felt recharged by being around people, having stimulating, grown-up conversations. So going off to be alone in the name of self-care was having the opposite effect. It's not hard to see why she was ready to give up on this whole taking care of yourself thing. So if any of that feels familiar, take a deep breath. You're not alone. We don't all recharge in the same way. Not all of our batteries are charged by doing the same activities. That's normal. What our client realized was that instead of adding self-care activities to her already very full plate, the best way she could take care of herself was to take things off her plate. Removing items from her to-do list was a simple way to relieve some pressure. She gave herself some grace. The point of self-care is to feel better about yourself, not to create unrealistic expectations you'll never meet, and then feel shame for not being good enough. That's the opposite of self-care. The other thing she realized about her self-care work was that when it felt like nothing would fill her cup, it was because there were holes in her cup. To fill her cup, she had to plug the holes. For her, the holes came from her self-talk and her feelings about her self-worth. All the self-care in the world wasn't going to fill her cup when it was leaking out the bottom because of how she was talking to herself and how she felt about herself. She started working on plugging those holes, and she plugged them with all the stuff we talked about in the last chapter. She began paying attention to how she spoke to herself, speaking to herself kindly, giving herself grace. She leaned into all the cheesy self-worth stuff we talked about in the last chapter too. All the mirror work, reminding herself what a badass she is, how much she loves herself, how proud she is of herself. Not only was she plugging the holes in her cup so that she could actually fill it, but she also figured out a strategy that helped her fill her cup, which wasn't leaving the house for alone time, but instead taking things off her list and booking time in her calendar for conversations with her friends. She went all in on herself to figure out a way to take care of herself so that she can fill her own cup and ensure she has plenty to give her family. There's another level to self-care. It's the ultimate expression of self-care and the part of self-care that I find to be the scariest. Boundaries. Boundaries are something I have struggled with for most of my life. Because of my low self-worth, I lived for external validation. The external validation of doing a job well, of coming through for someone else. I used to tell one of my old bosses that I could literally go all week on a sincere, great job at work. I needed the exceptional performance review. I would do anything for a pat in the back or a gold star from someone. When my boss asked me if I had capacity to take on a new task at work, my answer was always yes. Now, to be fair, I do have a high capacity for work. I could deliver on tasks at a high level pretty quickly, but I also needed the external validation that came from consistently delivering almost as much as I needed oxygen. Basically, my whole vibe was boundaries, never heard of them. Through this personal growth journey with a lot of reflection, journaling, and self-discovery, I realized that I was either incapable or unwilling to hold boundaries for two reasons. One, I didn't know who I was deep down. And two, I didn't believe I was worthy of saying yes to. When you really think about it, a boundary is just the edge of something, which makes your boundaries just the edges of you. They're the boundary between what you will and you will not accept, what you will and will not tolerate. In my corporate life, I did not know who I was. My identity was so tied to my corporate success that I could not tell you where my edges were. How could I possibly set a boundary for what wasn't acceptable for me if I didn't know where that boundary line even was? Secondly, to hold a boundary, you have to say no to someone else so that you can say yes to yourself. My self-worth was low. I didn't believe I was good enough. So how could I possibly say no to someone? If I said no, then I wouldn't get their approval. I wouldn't have those 5 minutes of feeling good about myself based on their external validation of me. I never said no to anyone, obviously, because I needed their validation like I needed air, which meant I never said yes to myself. I never came through for me. And we already know that keeping the promises you make to yourself is exactly how you build your own self-confidence. So, since I was keeping no promises to myself, I was building no confidence in myself. Therefore, I needed your external validation. Therefore, I needed to always say yes to you so you could give me the validation. You can see how this became a vicious cycle for me. Things only started to shift when I decided who I wanted to be and began journaling my identity statements and my truths about that person every day. Once I defined that version of me, I could also define her boundaries. Boom! I could finally set a boundary. Now, cue all that cheesy self-worth work I was doing to finally help me hold those boundaries and finally say yes to me, to finally come through on promises to myself. I'm still a work in progress, but I've held boundaries in some very emotionally charged conversations with family and friends who love me, but don't always understand this new version of me. These two quotes about boundaries have helped me a lot, and I hope they'll help you too, if your boundaries are still a work in progress. The only people who get upset about you setting boundaries are those who are benefiting from you having none. Brian Weiner. Implementing boundaries can often feel like a betrayal to others, but not learning to is almost always a betrayal to yourself. Kern Lima. I used to think of boundaries as walls you put up to protect yourself. But thinking of boundaries as walls is another reason that I found it hard to set and hold them. I didn't want to wall myself off from the people I love. Instead, I've started thinking of boundaries like a roadmap for how to engage with me so that I don't lose myself or my identity. People who love you and who want the best for you and who want you to be happy will always be willing to play by the rules you create that make you feel safe and loved. Healthy, loving relationships, romantic relationships, friendships, family, any healthy, loving relationship will always benefit from clear boundaries because they build and reinforce your self-respect, your self-confidence, and your self-worth. And anyone who loves you will be on board with your self-respect, your self-confidence, and your self-worth. So here's the bottom line. When you show up in your life with a full battery, feeling recharged and showing up for you, you build and reinforce your self-respect, self-confidence, and self-worth. And that's when you can show up as the best version of you for the important people in your life. And that's chapter 12.
That is chapter 12. Recharge.
Boom.
A lot of times we think it's selfish.
Yeah, I think that's a big one. Like making time for yourself feels selfish.
Selfish.
And you can see how you get there. I think we're socialized to some degree that way. I think we've learned along the way, especially women have learned along the way. Like my mom didn't spend any time, take time for herself when I was growing up. It was always all about us and dad. So that's what I learned growing up. I think a lot of women learn that growing up, that it's about everybody else. Put yourself last.
It's selfish to not. The more you are able to recharge and show up for yourself, the more you have in the tank for everyone else. It's actually the most selfless thing you can do, because the more of you there is, the more you can give.
Yeah. It's interesting. I talk to a group of ladies almost every week, and we had a long conversation one of those weeks about self-care and taking care of ourselves and making time for ourselves. And I don't know that there wasn't anyone on the call who wasn't struggling with the feeling of putting yourself first at the expense of especially your kids. And it wasn't until it really sunk in that, yeah, but what are you teaching your kids? Because they're going to do what you do, not what you say. Like we said in the book, kids don't listen to what you say. They follow what you do, like it or not. And do you want to teach your kids to put themselves last for the rest of their lives? Because that's what's going to happen. And
then they don't feel worthy of being put first. And now we have created a worthiness problem.
Right. We create this vicious cycle that gets repeated in every generation. And I love that can often be the impetus to motivate, especially women, to start taking care of themselves, is because they want to be the example for their kids. I would love it if just their own self-worth would be enough to motivate them to take care of themselves, whatever the motivation is, that taking care of yourself is so important, because then you have more to give to everybody else.
I think there's also an element of not just selfish, but like lazy. Like there's a hustle culture, and like if you're resting, if you're just, taking time for you, if you have a nap in the afternoon because your body's just destroyed or whatever, if you just need a day to sit on the couch and read a book because you're not feeling well or whatever, I think there's an element of, I feel lazy, or I'm not meeting society's expectations of what I'm supposed to be doing in this moment when we take that time for ourselves.
Well, and I think a lot of that comes back to my self-worth is tied to my productivity, which is tied to my value. So if I'm not being productive and delivering value for someone, then I have no worth. I have no inherent self-worth. It's all tied to value and productivity. So if I'm sitting on the couch, or I'm taking a nap, or I'm resting, I'm not delivering anything for anyone, and I have no value.
And the same concept applies as before when we said it's the most selfless thing you can do, because the more you show up for you, the more you have to show up for others. Well, the same applies here. The more, like, it's not lazy. The more you take care of yourself, recharge, the more you have for doing the things. You're going to be more productive if you recharge and do the things that your body needs you to do to show up in the other areas of your life. It's one thing to go and show up and try to do a task at 20% battery and get 20% of your output, versus had you just taken a little time for yourself and attack that task after the fact at a full charge battery, you would have got 5 times more productivity out of it.
I think back to my corporate days and how it was like, be at your desk from 7 to 5. There was this like expectation of don't go anywhere, grind, grind, grind. You can only sit there for so long. Like your brain only has such an attention span. Your body needs to get up and move. And what I've learned since, and I knew it then, but I didn't push it then or do it then. I just sort of knew it inherently, but I've applied it now in the last couple of years. Is when I feel like I'm kind of hitting a wall and I'm not feeling like I'm not in flow with whatever work I'm trying to accomplish. If I get up and we go for a walk, the ideas start to flow, and it gets my blood pumping back to my brain. I can sit down, I can get more done in the next hour after we go for a walk for 45 minutes than I would if I had sat down and worked straight through, by a lot.
Yep.
And I didn't do that then because I didn't have enough self-confidence or self-worth to stand up for myself.
So self-care now versus self-care
Oh.
in a previous life.
Like when I think of self-care, what we determined to be self-care,
Wine and pizza on the weekends and vegging out on Netflix and stuff.
the candy and the chocolate,
just
the
to like
cookies.
escape.
Yeah, it was more of a coping mechanism than it was a
It wasn't self-care.
couch
It made you feel crap. Like
I felt
the
worse.
definition of self-care is doing the thing that makes you feel better so you can show up
gives
better
you
in your life,
energy.
not. And what we were doing was like
Sucking the life out of
yeah, it's like I actually feel worse after that. I
Mhm.
feel good in the moment
Mhm.
while eating the pizza or drinking the wine, but then the next day I'm like,
I
ugh,
slept poorly because of the wine.
I'm
and-
dragging, I'm snotty, I'm
yeah, full of boogers when you get up in the morning.
lethargic, and it just so self-care really more recently I learned is showing up for yourself so that later you can show up better and be more productive and
Mhm.
actually do the things that you need to do to advance your life. Like
Yeah.
that's actually self-care.
It's like when I think back to those times, and there were weekends that weren't quite so bad, like where you'd get up and go for a hike, and on a Saturday, say, and there would be times where like I'm getting up on a Saturday morning to go for a hike, and I'm tired, and I want to sleep in, and I don't want to go, and some days I wouldn't, and some days I would. You never regretted it once you were there. Like once I was moving up the mountain, once I got to the top, you got the view, and you were like,
It was worth it.
it was always worth it. I felt so energized. I felt so proud of myself. I felt so good. You never regret doing the things you know are going to give you energy and make you feel good about yourself. Never. You might not feel like doing them in the moment, and we don't get into this in the book, but discipline. Like we talked about self-care as being discipline, doing the things you know are going to make you feel good. Discipline really is living in service of the future version of you. Like what's going to make you feel proud of yourself? What's going to make you feel good about yourself? What's going to give you energy in the future? That's discipline, doing the things that you know are going to serve the future version of you. And we so often just serve the present version of us, based on our whims and our feelings. And I'm a little bit tired and lethargic. I don't really want to go for a walk. I'm kind of tired.
Mm-hmm.
And I know if I don't go for the walk, I'm going to feel worse. But I
Feel more
don't go for
tired.
the walk anyway because I'm living in service of the present moment and how I feel, and letting my feelings dictate what I do instead of living in service of the future version of me. That was a revelation for me over the last 12 months.
Mhm.
That's what discipline really was, which is really what self-care is. And it has really served me a lot to think of it. Layla Hormozi asks this question every time that you try to decide about something. Is this going to make me respect myself more or less? And I think I like to think about it as, is this going to make future me proud? Like, is future me going to be proud of this decision?
Mm-hmm.
And I think if we can ask ourselves that question, will future me, the version of me I'm becoming based on my I am statements and my 10 truths and all the things, the person I'm trying to become, will she be proud of this decision? And if you filter your life through that lens, like you're always going to live in a self-care first mode.
And self-care too, like we always think of it as adding something to your plate, like doing something like going to yoga or adding another thing onto your to-do list to like recharge. And we talk about it in the book with the client who realized that I'm adding so much to my to-do list that it's supposed to recharge me, but it's actually making me anxious and actually doing the opposite. It's pulling energy out of me. Now I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to get all this stuff done. And it's really interesting that self-care can be just removing shit from your life too.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that is given enough credit or
enough of a microphone or visibility.
That like, why don't let's look at the to-do list and let's see what can we remove off.
What can be delegated, what can be deleted.
Yeah, maybe you don't want to clean your house anymore.
Yeah.
Just remove that.
Yeah.
What if you
I know some great cleaners.
Yeah, like just do that. And
you don't want to mow the lawn anymore. That was one.
Yeah, I didn't want to I hate mowing the lawn. Get rid of it.
Yeah.
It doesn't serve you. Then find someone else to do it so that you have time to go for a run.
Because really,
that recharges you.
Time is our only non-renewable resource. Like, we don't know how much time we have, any of us. We only have so many hours in a day. We only have so many days in a week, and we don't know how many of those we're going to have. And yet we seem to spend our time doing shit we don't want to do, that doesn't make us feel good, that doesn't recharge us. Like, self-care can be taking shit off your plate to give yourself time to do the things you want to do. Like, your kids are only young for so long. You only have so many summers and so many Christmases and all those things. Do you want to spend that doing the things that drain your energy and make you a cranky turd, or not?
Totally. And then the last thing we talked about in the chapter was boundaries.
Oh, yeah. That was a tough one for me. Boundaries are hard.
I liked the analogy you used in the book, though, of thinking of boundaries, used to be thinking of boundaries as walls, like things that you put up. So like, these are my boundaries, stay the fuck out of them.
Yeah.
But actually, to your point, they're actually roadmaps of how to deal, like how to interact with me. If you follow the roadmap, we're going to have a successful relationship. It's not putting up walls and isolating yourself from this person. It's actually inviting them in, but on the road,
here's the
that's
path
going to be effective to getting to the best possible outcome with me.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
It's a helpful analogy, because I think for anyone else who struggles with boundaries, I don't want to wall myself off. I don't want to isolate myself. I don't want to put up a fence between me and someone I love in my life, but I also can't let them walk all over me either, because then I leave every interaction with that person not feeling good about myself, which creates resentment. So if I'm leaving every interaction with someone I love feeling resentful of that interaction, how many more interactions am I going to have with that person? I'm going to start avoiding them, and I don't want to be avoiding them. So I need to set up boundaries so that I can leave a situation with that person, not resenting them, but
what happens when you set the boundaries? And so here's the road to be on, to interact with me. And they just say, yeah, but I don't like that road. Fuck it,
ignore the
I'm
road.
blazing my own trail here.
Like, walk through my tulips.
Yeah. Yeah, they mow down your tulips.
Well, like as Greg says, my boundaries don't require your participation. So
eventually you
start removing yourself.
Walls.
You just remove yourself from the situation.
Yeah.
If they're unwilling to play by the rules that you're creating for a relationship that makes you feel safe and loved and appreciated, and they can't follow the road, they can't play within those boundaries, then eventually you have to remove yourself.
And the thing is that almost every single one of us is going to encounter that.
Yeah.
We're all going to have those people in our lives that don't follow the road that we've laid out.
Yeah. Well,
and don't adhere to the boundaries.
It's like the quote, right? The Brian Weiner quote: the only people who get upset about you setting boundaries are the ones who are benefiting from you having none. So if someone's unwilling to adhere to your boundaries, they're not willing to do you the courtesy and pay you the respect of engaging with you in a way that makes you feel safe and loved, they're benefiting from you not having them, and it becomes a decision for you to make. And then going back to Kern Lima's quote, implementing boundaries is hard, and it can feel like a betrayal to people who aren't used to you having them. But not having them is a betrayal to yourself, almost always.
And that's the thing. And that's why we've started on the relationship with yourself before the relationship with the teammate, is that you cannot betray yourself. You have to show up for yourself first so that you can have a successful relationship with others. And if those people aren't willing to respect your boundaries,
they don't respect you.
Then is that a person that you really want to continue a close relationship with? Yeah.
And some people are virtually impossible to lift and shift completely out of your life, but you just minimize the time. You minimize.
It will affect the relationship, and yeah, you'll just have to adjust. But we're all going to have those people. And then you make a decision, and then it's up to them whether they're going to come and adjust and decide whether or not they want to be a part of your life in a more meaningful way. And then they'll either get on the road or not.
Yeah. And we had this conversation on our mastermind call a few weeks ago. We had a very in-depth conversation about this on the mastermind call about boundaries, and someone was struggling in a relationship with a loved one that wasn't respecting boundaries. And it's not an easy situation. It's not an easy conversation. But I think what was helpful Like we had this whole conversation and it was helpful, but it's especially the part where she didn't feel all by herself.
Yeah.
Like I think was feeling also pretty alone. Like I'm struggling in this situation with trying to set boundaries with this person who I know loves me, but I can't be around them. They're driving me crazy because they don't respect me or my boundaries.
Yeah.
She wasn't the only one on the call, which is the beauty of the mastermind, right? Like, you're not, to your point, we all are going to deal with these situations and people who aren't going to respect our boundaries. And even though it feels like sometimes you're the only one and this is a shitty situation to be in, it really helps to know other people are dealing with similar issues and how are they dealing with them, and how is it impacting them, and how can you support each other and hold each other accountable and all that good stuff.
Misery loves company.
Oh, community supercharges everything.
That's another way to say it if you want to be more positive about it. But yeah, you're right. Like the more you can get around people who are going through similar things as you, and we are all going through them. It's just a matter of getting in the right groups and talking about it and having it come to the forefront and actually see, oh, these people are okay. They're dealing with it too, and they're okay with talking about it. Makes it okay for you to talk about it, and just even that alone just makes you feel that much better about it. And then when you're around a mastermind of people who are going through it, then not only just talking about it makes you feel better, but then you get the added benefit of the stuff that they've tried and it's worked, or the things they've tried and it hasn't worked, that you can now skip that part because that didn't work, but also take this because it did and try that, and you get to where you want to go a lot faster. So shout out to the mastermind. If you want to be a part of that mastermind, we will link it in the show notes. You should come. Not should. I don't want to shoot on you, but
highly recommend.
Here's an invitation for you. Come join a badass group of people who are talking about this type of stuff so that you don't feel alone. Next week,
let that shit go. Chapter 13.
See you then. Bye.
If today's episode gave you a new lens for your relationship, don't let it stop here. The best teams never stop training.
On Thursdays, we drop the Unstoppable Team newsletter on LinkedIn. It's our high-performance briefing designed to give you one tactical drill you can run with your teammate over the weekend.
So just search Meredith and Craig on LinkedIn, or click the link in the show notes to subscribe. Get the briefing, kill that domestic drag, and we will see you next Tuesday.